Hello, myself Sunil Ramakrishnan Nair, and here basically we are discussing about the 193 number part. And in 193, basically we are going to discuss how the basically the Bollywood industry basically, because Bollywood industry only basically keeps the track of the cities basically. If we say that entire creation basically in the top level designation are of Bollywood groups, and they basically handles the lots of stuff basically, then it would be correct basically. Whatever the display part, that basically comes in the under of the Bollywoods. That for example in this city, this many building has to create, this building color would be like this building in this city basically there would be around 100 temples, 100 mosques, 100 church, like this basically each and every calculations the Bollywood groups do. And that basically with the help of the government industry. And the government industry basically everybody knows each and every department. More than 100 departments are there in the government groups. So you can just imagine to create one city, the stuff basically which are getting used. So to create city is not so easy task, right? if you if you are handling one company, software company, then basically it's very difficult to handle the software company. Then basically you can just imagine the creation of the city, and after city creation you have to handle that city also. So it's not so easy task, because that city basically which you are going to create, that is going to generate one energy, and that energy is basically going to used by the entire world. So that basically comes to 7 to 8 lakh cities in this world basically, more than 7 to 8 lakh cities basically, minimum basically 7 to 8 lakh are there basically. So they are going to use your energy. How basically? Because one city if you create, then basically that city 100% has to be converted into the energy. Then only the businessman basically says that the 24 lakh basically can be recovered. Otherwise basically from normal sales you can't do the recovery of the money. It's very difficult basically. For example, when they told that we will put some for 70 80 malls, sorry, 70 80 is too much. Assume that 10 to 12 malls basically put it. Then basically from 10 to 12 malls basically up to what level recovery basically of the city investment basically can be done. It's not possible, right? To recovery of this, if you establish, assume that more than 10,000 cities, sorry, 10,000 companies in the one city, then also basically it's difficult. Why? Because you have to pay the salary, you have to get the expenses of the city, you have to pay to the government, you have to pay the tax. Then basically profit basically comes very to not too much. Why? Because you are creating one honor also. So for that honor basically you have to give some certain money. So you can just imagine the city creation, how the city creation has happened. So like this basically the recovery of the 24 lakh crore basically it's not so easy. So that's why basically the city 100% is going to convert to the energy. And the main thing is, when the city is going to convert to the energy, the main thing basically comes into the picture is that whole world is going to connect to this city. Whole world energy is going to connect to the cities. So you can just imagine the whole world if energy is getting connected to this city, then basically you can just imagine the city valuation also. City creation basically takes lots of time, right? If I say that from one city you can create water, from one city you can create one special type of water, then basically it's 100% right. But the more challenging comes when it gets into the blood cells, when it is consumed by the for assume that 50 to 60 crore people are using this water, then basically that comes to the challenging part. That comes to the challenging part basically. Challenging is that city, 50 to 60 crore people are basically using that water. So that basically is the challenging part. So it's very difficult basically to control the city creation also basically. because city keeps on creating. It never stops. City creation never stops. That is the main thing basically you can say. So if city has converted into the so basically here basically assume that the new city, fresh city is getting created. So how basically it gets into the picture? Because government is already created. Previously assume that the government was not there. Then basically it was a barter system. Barter system means one city told that we have basically given you this all utilities, this all facilities. So that's on the base of our all items basically which are getting created in the city. On the base of that, basically you have created lots of objects in your city. So basically we also required some in return. So for that, basically that time basically the accountancy department was also there. It was basically written in some books or some paper basically. That time paper basically was the colors basically and the trees trees and the leaves basically gets converted into the books. So that time basically here basically we are not discussing the how basically the things were. How here basically we are discussing that how the things was basically getting controlled. So previously the accounting department was by default there. So accounting department just see basically the it's going since barter system. That time basically the computer was not there, right? But the accounting system was there. That time from that time basically the accounting system was there. So that time basically the calculation was also going perfectly. That you have helped like this much, then basically we are going to helping you with that much. So like this basically the city exchange was basically ongoing. The same thing basically is here also. Here basically the difference is the money came into the picture. So instead of help or instead of the objects basically getting transferred one city to another city, here basically the money currency system basically came into the picture, and everybody knows that accounting is very old system. So the currency system also basically might have created long before only according to the valuation of the objects. For example, one house you are purchasing, then basically what is the valuation of that house? Valuation means you can say here valuation word means that how many amount basically has taken to create this building, and then basically how many time basically this building is ongoing creation, how many materials basically was used, how many member basically has created this house, how many time this house is standing like this without any selling. That basically expenses each and everything. You have to pay the tax, you have to pay the water bill. So each and everything gets keeps on adding, keeps on adding. Then at last basically the house rates basically are decided, and then basically the builder basically takes their profit. So you can just imagine one building costing is coming like this basically, then you can just imagine the other costing are also basically like that only. It's basically simple basically formula is the costing amount basically is calculated on the base of the valuation of the particular item. And valuation basically what is that basically we have here basically the valuation word is like this. So the in technical basically the valuation word is totally different, but here basically the valuation word we have taken as as a consideration like this. So the city gets creates, the valuation basically is getting preparation. Then the currency department basically prints the money. For example, one USA businessman basically invested in India 1 lakh crore dollar. So they are going to by default going to print 1 lakh crore. They are not going to add that the amount as 1 lakh. Sorry. 1 lakh dollar. They are going to print 1 lakh multiplied by the currency amount, currency rate basically which is ongoing. That the rupees amount is ongoing. So that much currency they are going to print here. Then basically they are going to invest because they are investing in India, right? So the money value will be of India, right? because they are going to purchase, they are going to create everything in India land. So the tax basically, which the tax calculation which is going to happen, that is going to happen from the India land according to the India land. That's why basically the India currency amount basically are getting translated, and the currency department, whatever basically currency are getting invested in India, by default currency department rule says that they have to print the currency amount. So that basically this type of thing basically never get disclosed. Why? Because it's a very critical, right? And this is basically directly connecting to the system basically, right? So nobody is going to disclose their system basically, how the things are basically working, because it might possible that hijacking can happen of the system. And hijacking means, I will take one example. What actually I want to say here as a hijacking. Assume that the currency system is created from one of the software, and from currency system basically they created one vegetable. Just see basically how the hacking system basically here, what actually the hacking system is. They created one vegetable. So vegetable by default it's going to generate blood cells, and then basically it's going to generate in the environment, right? So each and every energy basically gets generated in the environment, that basically is locked. By default it's locked, otherwise it will get mixed to each and every objects, right? Each and every energy in the environment, that's why basically it gets locked. So to unlock basically only the vegetable in group basically, who are the currency department, they only have the authority, right? But if by chance somebody hacked the system basically, that is basically a currency system. Hacked means they basically tracked the roadmap, they tracked how the energy of the currency is getting prepared in the environment. Just see basically how the things are basically working, and how the gets created. So assume that the currency environment basically, currency energy is basically preparing in the environment for the vegetable creation preparation of the vegetables. Then only basically after preparation of the energy, then only basically the power company takes the data basically, right? They basically do the certain process, and then only they takes the data of that processed currency energies. So assume that the processing is happening in the lock mode. Suddenly, basically, some people know that like this, the system basically is we can basically unlock this basically energy, and we can put our data there. So just see basically. Um, then basically they told that yeah, basically we can suddenly basically climates change, right? Sometime basically happens that suddenly the climates got changed. That basically comes to the hacking basically system, hacking of the energies. Basically everybody know that hacking of the software happens, hacking of the internet is happening. This is basically also one of the hacking basically, you can say. Hacking also basically it's same basically. There are assume that internet basically is the whole world internet is created, and that internet basically have 7,000 gates, and that 7,000 gates are basically opened on the base of certain user ID and password. Then only basically the this is basically I'm talking about the virtual world. In real world basically it's one building security guards are there. They basically gives the authority pass, and then basically only you can enter the buildings, then only basically you can enter, right? So that is authority pass here is your user ID and password here. So that basically is simple system, right? That basically everybody knows nowadays, because without this basically system you can't enter the building. You can't send a one resume also to any company. And if you go to the one building, and if you say that basically I want to pass one resume to this company, it's very difficult, right? They will say that how basically we can give you a resume, basically you should have a appointment like this, basically lots of things basically happens. So it's very difficult to pass one resume also. So then basically you can just imagine how to enter the one premises, how it's very difficult. So here basically we are not talking that. Here basically we are talking that 7,000 in 7,000 gates are there, and from that gates basically you basically can enter with the help of user ID and password only. That is basically also virtual, right? Basically, it's also virtual. So that's basically the internet world. Basically, that basically it's an internet world. So you can't see the data, right? You can't see that here the basically English word is ongoing. Here the German word is ongoing. You can't basically the German is converting to the English. That basically you can't see, right? Why? Because it's a energy, and your eye basically don't have that much power basically, which can see the energy basically, right? So here basically we are telling that um, the gates are there and 7,000 gates are there and 7,000 user ID password are there. So this is basically the simple internet explanation how the internet is working. So here basically what we are discussing about. We are discussing about the currency system basically. The investment happened to the city. The currency department told that we are basically the into the printing of the currency, right? So we are printing the currency amount, and currency amount is basically printed. So that basically afterwards, basically when the cities gets created. So this is also one of the department of government, right? This is also one of the department of the government. Then basically tax, businessman comes into the picture. This all basically comes under the government, right? And the government are under basically what businessmen. And few people says that businessmen are equal to government employees. So that type of thing basically also was rumor. It might be rumor and it might be real also that this person which is the richest person of this country, he is basically the one of the government employees basically. He is basically having this role in the government. So that's things are, and basically he is doing lots of certain level of task. For that basically he need lots of expense. He need to invest lots of money. So for that, basically, he prepared one system, and only basically public can give him the money. And public basically, when they will give you the money, then basically you are using that items of that particular businessman. Then only basically the government is going. So for that, basically you have to prepare certain utilities so that basically the public will like, and then public will like. Then basically the public is, for example, television system. Somebody, some businessman has created, right? Previously television. So basically he was he's also one of the, he might be one of the businessmen. So he might be doing certain level of process. For that basically he might require the certain money. So he prepared the television, he invested the money. So public is liking the television system. So they basically like the television system, and the television system is ongoing, right? So this type of the creation started. So 24 lakh crore businessmen basically who there are three businessmen who basically invested this much money. So that money recovery basically you have to do, right? So from this all thing basically you can't recover the money, right? You are investing in television. So investment is also ongoing, right? Without investment you can't prepare the television, right? The public is going to purchase the television, but that is also going to take time. And after that certain time also basically you can't recover the 25 lakh 24 lakh crore basically. So the best option business development officer basically, that are basically the city development officer basically, you can say we can give this name, city development officer. City development officer means city creation group basically, who basically only do the city creation. If anybody says that we want to create this type of level of city, assume that this great level of city, then basically these are the groups basically who can do up to this level. So there are basically the certain consultant basically who basically creates the city, and they have the ready-made templates, they have the ready-made objects. For example, if you want to prepare these many buildings, then basically what are the materials, how basically you can create the roads. For example, there is 100 kilometer city. 100 kilometer is the range basically. In this range basically you have to create the city. Then basically the entire how many roads basically you can create, that type of basically design the consultant basically have. Why? Because they are into this business only. So according to the experience, they have prepared lots of roadmaps, lots of city basically gets created, lots of design gets created. Nowadays basically one city, if you create one city, then basically you um, creates one design basically. So that type of people are also there with basically, but that only basically the experienced person can do, right? Normal people basically can't do, right? Because they are basically telling that to create one city, only the hard work basically which happens, that we only know. Then basically how basically the designing basically part we can do. So it's very difficult. So that's why basically they go into the city creation into the simple city only. They don't go into the complexity, right? So these type of thing are also there. So here the main thing basically is, rest of thing are basically the common thing, right? System gets creates, government gets creates, lakes gets created, that all are basically the normal, and anybody can see that. If you this use it, see the lake in the city, then basically it's created in the city only. If you see the tree, basically whatever you see in the city, that by default you can say that it's a creation of the cities only. But here the main thing is what? The main thing is the energy matrix basically, which is getting generated by the nuclear power company, who says that this is the energy of this city. So that is the main thing here basically. The rest of things basically are very easy, right? You are creating 1 crore tree in one city, but why you are creating 1 crore only? Why you are not creating 10 lakh? Why you are not creating 20 lakh, 30 lakh? Why 1 crore only? Why? Because the matrix which is given by the nuclear power company, they say that this many plant basically you can prepare. Why basically they have told this? And that also in the different direction. Why? Because the energy is going to process in the city. So you can just imagine basically how in dangerous environment also basically you are staying. But that basically will not harm your body. Why? Because your body are protected with the password. How? The blood cells creation basically happened in your city, they will not take the energy which is getting processed. So you can just imagine the body also created by the city creation groups basically. So before the city creation happens, the body of the, if any city is getting created, then basically they first checks the locking system of the human body basically, which is has to have 100%. So you can just imagine the human body structure also basically, how basically it's up to the level designed. So it's not easy basically to create one city also. So normally basically everybody knows that we can create trees, we can create buildings, we can create lakes, we can create temples, we can create a mosque, we can create masjid, we can create church, girjaghar, we can create Parsi and Gyaris, we can create Jain temples, we can create each and every god place. But the thing basically which is supposed to understand that is the energy basically which is going to, the materials basically which are going to be used in the creation of that, because the city is going to convert to one some utility, that is basically the human needs, right? That is the main thing. And here the more flexible thing basically which is created, that is, for example, assume that something wrong got created, then basically the selection systems are also there, that a nuclear power company says that we are going to select only this many energies, because that energy basically got wrongly created. So you can't ignore that energy also. Let them that badly created energy gets processed in the environment. We don't have basically to worry. Why? Because our energy system basically which is created, that has basically created a locking system. In locking system it's created. So you can just imagine the creation level also basically has happened basically, you can say. The city creations. So one city basically, if you create one city, 24 lakh crore basically, if you are creating, then from one person basically told that if we uh, if we just create one vegetables from the city, that would be okay. Then this person told that no, basically everybody is not going to purchase the vegetable, right? Not basically, you can't produce the certain level of you can't produce too much vegetables also, because everybody is not eating the vegetables, right? Then basically he told that basically we have to think something else in energy creation also. Basically the main creation basically to get the 24 lakh crore amount, the plan basically which came into the picture, the small level recovery basically, that is ongoing only. What is that? That is the mall creation has happened. From that mall basically lots of items are getting sold, company creation happens. So these all are basically the small recovery of the city, small recovery of the city. The bigger level recovery is this, that is basically we are discussing, that is the energy level recovery. For example, one person told that we can create vegetables, right, from this commercial complex, that are basically the 20 to 30 commercial complex which we have created. From that we can create the vegetable. Then basically one of the person told that we can create apple from that 30 to 40 basically buildings energies, and the land creation and the energy basically the people are using in that building. Then the one person told that we can create, we can give some space to the text box groups, combo box groups, check boxes groups, radio buttons groups. This whole group basically we can give certain type of land and let them invest the money. And if they are investing, then basically it's a huge level of money basically getting generated. Huge level of money basically that is getting generated, right? That is the bigger level of money. That is the bigger level of money, because top 10 richest person basically that are from the software industry, top 20 basically we can say, that are from this software industry only. So you can just imagine the, if you are creating one shopping websites and if it gets famous, for example Flipkart is there, Amazon is there, and then Geo is there, then basically there are many websites, Misho is there, like this basically many websites are there. So what is the income of this groups basically? What is the income of this? It's in crores basically, right? It's in the Amazon income basically, you can say per minute they might be producing in crores of amount. Why? Because it's already famous and they have good level of services also, because they have AWS. AWS means they have everything virtually. Virtual this related to AWS, what actually is. We have already discussed about what actually the AWS is, how basically Amazon basically created AWS, how basically Amazon is telling that we are giving the virtual space, and the speed basically which you are getting from the server, that same speed basically you are going to get. For that basically we have taken one video, that how that speed is getting calculated. That also basically we have seen in one of the video. So this is about the show of one more income basically. This basically comes into the bigger level of income, bigger level of income. Then basically the things comes that is the one person told that can we produce a few human souls from this city? If we sold one human soul basically, if we sell one human soul, one type of human soul basically. One type of human soul means I will take one description of the human soul. For example, there is one person basically told that we want to create one human that thinking should be like this. Like this means he should have a good mathematics. He should have a good history knowledge. He should be good in the mm, God type basically. He should believe in God. Then basically he told that he should be constructive mind. He should be romantic mind. Romantic mind means if you do the marriage, then basically he should be romantic with the wife basically. with his wife, because after child basically he is going to become young also, then basically marriage is also going to happen. So like this basically he told that he's supposed to be very strong, his bones are supposed to be very strong. So that type of human souls we are going to create. Up to this level basically nobody has thought that the bone can become strong from the human souls. Up to this level nobody has thought that that type of basically human soul we are going to create. For that what we have to do? Then basically the doctors told that you have to create lots of things basically, because once the childbirth is getting happening, then lots of process is happening, right? There are more than crores of planets are basically getting connected with that lady's energy. That basically happens. That basically directly doesn't happen. Directly, lady body basically doesn't connect with the planets, right? Because in between the power company and the energy companies are there, and they are basically having the 2 month data in advance with their power company. So just imagine the city creation basically. So here basically we can create one human souls, which bone is going to be very strong. For that bone is very strong, then basically for that basically we are going to create few areas basically, and that area basically is going to create some set of buildings, and that set of buildings basically this type of people are going to stay. So just imagine the dangerous level also basically you can say, because this type of creation is already happened. That is the thing basically I am telling. This type of thing for assume that 1 lakh human soul is created on the base of one city creation. So from what that city 1 lakh human clone basically has created, sorry, human souls has created, assume that. So for human soul, basically they created few 70 to 80 buildings, and from that building, basically lots of humans are staying. This type of humans are staying. This type of people are staying. This type of energy, basically they are using. They are having this type of blood cells. So on the base of that data, the assume that 1 lakh human souls got created. So source was what that source was 70 to 80 buildings. That is the source of the human soul creation. That is basically clear. So just see basically the critical level. Basically, you can't basically can able to track the critical level also. Here, the buildings are created on the base of that building. The human souls basically got created on the base of the human souls. The birth has happened. The child basically is process. Child creation process started. The child creation process started, the child got created, and they basically successfully done the powerful bone creation also. And just to see the basically the few people says that na, he's human, so he basically don't have any disease, he have some human soul creation problem, his atma basically is having some disease. Lots of people says that, right? And lots of people says that it's a andhavishwas people, andhavishwasi છે. In Gujarati basically it's tells that he is basically the andhavishwasi. આ અંધવિશ્વાસી છે. Andhavishwasi means it's there is no ethic basically. There is no source basically. There is no science. But this is actually the real fact, right? Then basically assume that the child got birth also. So for from that basically the 2 to 3 lakh people got created. And here the same thing basically the main thing is the soul basically which that person is having inside his body. Of that soul, the source is that 80 buildings. That 80 building is the source of the human souls, and that basically from the human souls, that 2 lakh child has basically has 2 lakh birth has happened, and they are basically now child, they are now basically the child, right? So here basically we are discussing about the 193 part, and in 194 basically we are going to discuss the part of this only. And how basically it's connecting to the Bollywood industry, how it's connecting to the city creation, and how the entire city has created, that also basically we are going to see from these connections basically. Just now basically we saw the 3 to 4 lakh basically a child has happened, and that child are basically having the human souls inside the body, and that human soul is created from that 70 to 80 buildings.